News today, though, including a story we've been following for a few weeks now. As we've heard, one of the 6 men arrested for alleged war crimes faces a deportation hearing in Toronto today. Meanwhile, a lawyer who represents the family of another suspect on that list of 30 is taking the offensive. He wants to sue the Canada Border Services Agency for putting 76-year-old Khalil Abdul Khalil on that list of 30. Joining me now to explain all of this is Toronto lawyer Anser Farooq. So, Anser, I can get you to step in here. Thanks, first of all, for coming in. Now, are you the lawyer representing this family?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so it's you who said that these allegations are false and wouldn't stand up in court. Is that correct?
Well, we take that position from our clients, obviously, on behalf of our client.
And we're talking allegations of him being a suspected war criminal according to what's been said on the CBSA website.
Yes.
Okay, so then the question becomes, if that is indeed true and you want to sue the CBSA for defamation, what's stopping your client from showing up and having his day in court?
Well, we haven't yet said that we're going to sue the CBSA. What we've done so far is issued a notice of defamation, which gives the government an opportunity to go back and review the allegations that they've made, and if they're going to stand their ground on that, then we will go back and take the next step if it becomes necessary. So at this point, there is no lawsuit, there is no claim that's been issued. They started this by saying he's an alleged war criminal and so on, putting him in the list with everybody else. We'll give them enough time to decide what they want to do, and from there on we'll take our next step.
So is the family taking dispute with him being labeled a suspected war criminal, or are they taking issue with something that was said in the language of their finding against him? Because that's what it comes down to as well, right? It's not like they just labeled him a war criminal. He did have a hearing, did put his case forth, and they've decided, they've found, no, we think you are guilty of these crimes. Let me just read it. Violated human or international rights under the Crimes Against Humanity and War Crimes Act. That's what he's labeled as having done, correct?
What we are concerned with right now is the opinion that was expressed, and that opinion as is expressed on the website. Okay, that opinion is now being read and passed along to every individual, and as they read this opinion, all they see is that this is a finding of fact, and that finding of fact is not subject to the same test as we have in criminal courts, which is find somebody guilty beyond a reasonable doubt before you label them as a murderer or a rapist or anything of that nature. You have to have a finding of fact, and the government doesn't want to do that.
So are you saying the CBSA's finding is merely opinion? Is it not their finding after an investigation and interviewing him?
When you have an immigration hearing, you don't have a judge who sits there. It's an adjudicator. Mm-hmm. Okay. Whereas when you have somebody charged in a criminal context,
but then shouldn't your issue be more with our immigration system and not the fact that he's been labeled? He's not. Is he entitled to the same rights under our criminal court when it comes to immigration? As I'm to understand, no, it is a different process, is it not?
No. Anyone, individual in fact, who's in Canada is afforded the protection of the Charter. All those rights and guarantees that are in the Charter are afforded to those individuals. To my surprise, just last week I learned, in fact, even a student who was in Canada on a student visa was charged with an offense. He came to see our office and he said that he had in fact gotten legal aid funding, which I personally wasn't aware of the fact that you could get that. But apparently you can even get funding for being charged with a criminal offense even if you're a student. So in an immigration context, you have a very different threshold that's being looked at. And our concern here is that you're now labeling him as a war criminal. And you have to keep in context the timing of this. You know, when Mr. Khalil was here and when his review was done was some 10 years ago. So why now? Why is this being broadcast at this point?
Well, because they haven't been able to find him until now. Has he shown up? Has he turned himself in? Has he made himself available?
That's where you have the disingenuous part of the government. Okay, there's been many, that was the first occasion. They've known where he's been. 10 years somebody's in the country, and you take the position, well, he's a war criminal, he's committed heinous crimes, and that's what you're trying to portray.
So because the government dragged their feet and didn't do what they should have done 10 years ago, we should say, Bob's your uncle, let him go?
No, that's not what the government didn't do. What the government isn't doing even today. They're not wanting the magnifying glass to be placed upon themselves. They're saying somebody did something. And as I said, if you take it in the context of somebody is supposed or alleged to have killed somebody, you don't go around saying he's a murderer. You don't go around saying somebody's a rapist unless and until you've subjected the evidence to scrutiny, and that scrutiny has to be done in a criminal context.
But that's the thing. That's not our system, though. As far as an immigration, when it comes to an immigration hearing or a refugee claim, that's not our system to put it through our criminal court. So again, my question to you is: isn't your beef more with our system than it is with this individual case? I do have another question for you. Where is your client now? Is your client readily available to the CBSA?
Our concern is not with the system. There's larger organizations, obviously, which have raised these concerns about how the government wants to deal with these issues, which is by shifting people which they allege are war criminals out of Canada. That's not responsible action.
I won't disagree with you, and a lot of people here that have been behind, driving this story and wanting answers would agree that the CBSA, in many ways, and I've said it many times on this show, this started off with the CBSA patting themselves on the back with a media photo op saying, hey, look at us, we're going to launch this sweep. And then we were like, okay, let us help out. Release the names, and they were like, oh, wait a minute, now all of a sudden they're patting themselves on the back again. So I wouldn't disagree with you on that. However, I want to ask you again, is your client readily available to the CBSA at this point in time?
If the government wants to take the necessary steps, which we think are appropriate in order to clear my client's names, which is they can contact our office, they can say, look, we intend to charge, and charges in the past have been laid against individuals. I understand there was 2 individuals who were charged in the past who've been prosecuted for war crimes in Canada. So
but what if we don't want to prosecute them? We want to send them back where they've already been deemed to have committed crimes.
Right.
Why should we have to spend the money to prosecute
who said
them?
that they've been deemed to have been committed crimes in their own countries? There was supposedly a finding made by an immigration adjudicator. This was a finding made by a Canadian official. I have no information which corroborates that finding, that the same finding was ever made. For instance, my client who's from Afghanistan, that such a finding was made there. So we have labeled him. Afghanistan didn't label him.
Well, each individual case,
right,
certainly, and you have to take it.
I'm only
this is your case, absolutely. So again, though, I just want to make it clear: is your client readily available for the CBSA to make contact with? Does the CBSA know where your client is?
That's something that they need to know. I don't know what they know, but if they want to contact my client, they know where to contact me. I'm readily available.
Okay, so the CBSA, if they want to talk to your client and take the next steps in your client clearing his name, because I would think if you really want to clear your name, you would then go to the authorities and say, hey, I want to clear my name. I'm being labeled this, and I want to clear my name. And the next step, you can't take the next step until you take the first step.
Absolutely, and that's why we've given them that opportunity, which is what the defamation notice is. They have an opportunity to review that if they think they're in the right, because there's only one defense to defamation.
But are you willing to turn your client over, so to speak, without them removing that from their website?
My client doesn't have to be turned over.
Well, he does, because they're looking for him. He's wanted.
The order is, or that he's to be deported.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so if...
So hide out until...
Hypothetically speaking, if he's not in the country,
mm-hmm,
then why would I turn my client in? Or why would he turn himself in?
Well, then turn that information into the CBSA.
Again, first, they have to account to us why they believed.
Because if he's wanted and he's believed to be in this country illegally, right, and he's been ordered deported, why do they have to answer to you or your clients? Because he should be answering to them.
That's their job, to find out whether or not somebody's in Canada or not. That's their job, not my job. Secondly, my job is simply to hold people accountable. If they're going to go make representations about my client, and they're going to say he's A and B, well, if you're not going to come back and back it up, we'll take you to a place in a system which appropriately deals with individuals who like to defame others. And we've given them that opportunity, and in time, if they don't respond appropriately, we'll go to courts, and we'll obviously subject to instruction.
Will your client be showing up for that court appearance, that court hearing?
Subject to what we can do, yes. He may not. Because as you know, in many court appearances, the parties are not required to attend. Counsel attend on behalf of parties.
You know you're going to have a hard time getting public sentiment on your side.
What I can say to the public is, and the family wants the public to know this, absolutely. They want them to know that there's absolutely no concern, nobody in Canada ought to have any concern with respect to Mr. Khalil. He's not a danger to anyone. He's not a threat to anybody. And, the fact that he's been or not been here for 10 years, and there hasn't been any allegations about him having done any wrongdoings in Canada, should give the public assurance. What has happened at this point is that the government, for whatever their objective, whatever their agenda, has decided to plaster his face all over, and the harm that does.
Well, because
to the
we, the Canadian taxpayers and citizens of this country, asked them to. We demand that, and actually, the majority of Canadians do want people with such instances as fraudulent passports. A survey today shows that the majority of Canadians want those people out. They don't want them to stay in this country while they appeal any decisions. They want them out. That's what true Canadian citizens want, not somebody who's here illegally or who's been ordered deported.
I'd agree with you. If you can establish beyond a reasonable doubt, and this is a finding that has to be made in a court of law, that Mr. Khalil was engaged in some activities that can be classified as the government has classified, absolutely, he shouldn't be here.
Okay, I'm out of time. I do want to, I want to make sure we've both had our say. I'm out of time. I'm going to go do some research because it's my understanding, and I could be totally wrong, I'm not an expert on this, that the onus, the burden of proof is far less when it comes to an immigration or a refugee hearing than it is in a criminal court of law, and that's just the system we have. I'd be pleased to have you back another time and debate it some more because I've got a feeling the story's not going anywhere.
Thank you very much.
I thank you for your time.